Thanks for stopping by. Hello, hello, hello. It's Dr. Bad Vibes. I'm here with some, well, it's dumb news. It's very weird news. It's very disturbing news. I thought I would get this one out here just because it's something I'm kind of interested in. And honestly, so I haven't gotten to it yet. One of the videos I have planned is related to pro wrestling. If you don't know me, if you haven't heard me on some of my streams, I'm a fan of pro wrestling. I've watched it since I was a little kid. It's fun. It's dumb. I like it. But yeah, there's some very very big news going on right now. I'm not going to go through the entire thing, but if you're familiar with WWF, now known as WWE, the brainchild behind that is Vince McMahon. He's been the owner since he purchased it from his father in the late 70s, early 80s, and he made it an entertainment juggernaut. But at the same time, it's been a carny clown show behind the scenes and sometimes front and center. So in recent times, Vince McMahon, he's aging. He's in his late 70s now. He's maintained control of the company since he purchased it, and he was ousted in 2022. They made it look like a retirement, but there were a lot of bad things going on. So there were some allegations in 2022 about cover-ups and paying certain people money to, be quiet. And it got serious enough that he was ousted from the company, uh, retired, pretty much disappeared. So it seemed. There was and is a lot of speculation that he was still running the company despite not being there. A lot of weirdness going on, like his daughter left, and then he left, and then she came back, and then he came back, and then she left again. All of that's weird. But the short version is he was ousted from the company. While he was gone, he was just like, screw it. I'm going to sell the thing. Rather than let his family continue to run it, he's just like, I'll just cash out. So he forced his way back into the company, despite all of these allegations. And this led to a brokering of a deal reportedly spearheaded by Vince McMahon himself to merge with the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships. And they formed a new company called TKO, which is the parent corporation of both of these companies. So the deal was done. The two companies merged, and I believe they began operations as a single entity in like October, September 2023. And that reabsorbed Vince McMahon as a director. He had a seat on the board. I don't remember what the exact title was, but he still has a lot of stock in the company, so he probably still had some say. He's probably still had a little involvement, even though they didn't want to acknowledge it. I do remember some news coming out that a shareholder, like maybe in earnings or something, they made some reference. I don't have it in front of me. I tried looking, but they basically acknowledge that Vince McMahon is a PR nightmare waiting to happen, and they believe that. I think they just straight up said that we need to get him off the board or just kind of downplay his role in the company, and hadn't heard much about it since. Some of his very close people did leave the company within the past month or two, which people thought were odd. I mean, maybe it was just time. Some of the producers, people had been there for decades. But here we are today with some new allegations that seem to stem from the previous allegations that led to Vince leaving the company in the first place. So I'm not going to get into all the details. It's all over the internet. If you just Google Vince McMahon, you're going to find the article. Honestly, I probably can't even say all the details on YouTube without being spanked for bringing these things up. But I guess the easiest way to put it, I'm looking at the CNN article right now. So basically, this is a new lawsuit. It was filed in Connecticut, and a former employee alleged that McMahon promised a job and later promotions at WWE in exchange for favors. So it also includes allegations that McMahon trafficked her to other men inside and outside of the company, including former wrestlers, talent relations. I don't want to go through the whole list here, but lots of bad stuff. It even goes so far that it alleges that there was a three-way that led to her getting pooped on. This sounds like a wrestling storyline, but this is real life. So these allegations seem to tie in with the previous problem in 2022. I don't know if this is the same person, but it talks about it does make a lot of references to that. And the main thing is it alleges that Vince paid more than $12 million to four women to cover up quote unquote allegations of sexual misconduct and infidelity. They had an internal investigation. They looked at a lot of things. And this new lawsuit claims that basically nothing was done. Nobody was actually contacted. That's what they claim. I have no idea. If so, that's awful. Everybody involved should be in trouble. I mean, it's just like a bad wrestling storyline. And it's not too far from storylines that have actually happened with Vince in the past. Obviously, I'm a fan of the company and the performers. It's hard to be a fan of Vince himself now with a lot of the stuff that's gone on, and some of it is kind of crept into the public view. Some of the storylines were really weird over the years. I mean, like a little too close for comfort. Just some of the ones I can think of off the top of my head. Luckily, this one didn't actually happen, but there were rumors for years that he kept pitching an idea for an incest angle with his daughter, Stephanie McMahon. She was interim CEO while he was gone. I mean, it's not like that really matters, but that was his own daughter. It sounded like he really kept wanting to pitch an incest angle, and they almost did it. I remember this specifically. They kept teasing it when they had the ECW brand in the like mid 2000s. There was a real life, wrestling duo, the guy and the girl, and they were storyline brother and sister, but they were like too close, and everybody was like, "Why are you doing this?" And then it kind of went away, thankfully. But there've been plenty of awful storylines that seem to mimic real life now. Straight up, like it was like a. So if you're not familiar with wrestling, like this time of year through April or so, this is WrestleMania season where all the storylines get really hot, and then they reach a conclusion or an apex at WrestleMania. And one of the big ones, I believe, in like 2000, it was basically Vince McMahon torturing his wife and having an affair, and then publicly humiliating one of the talents, Trish Stratus, on just straight up on television. Like it served no storyline purpose. He had her, take her clothes off in the ring and bark like a dog, and he dumped garbage on her. It was, I mean, it was kind of messed up. Obviously he was supposed to be a villain at the time, but he appears to be a villain in real life. I wonder how much of this storyline stuff mirrored reality. It's wild seeing all of this. I mean, the basic formula of wrestling is good versus evil. It's like a comic book. It turns out he may have actually been the evil all along. It was him all along, Austin. Turns out Steve Austin may have been the hero we actually needed. Well, until he got in trouble for stuff. Okay, or maybe everybody's just bad. I don't know. It's just absurd how bad some of this stuff is. I'm very curious how it's going to affect the company. We're probably going to see a lot of people disappear. Some of them may be on-screen talent. There's a strong rumor that a former UFC/WWE performer that makes the list pretty short, was on the verge of making a return to the company, which isn't uncommon. Again, WrestleMania season. This is peak wrestling, peak pay us to watch stuff time. And yeah, so that's probably going to derail that. And just days ago, they actually got The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. He joined the board of directors of TKO. He actually got the rights to his name, The Rock, which I'm sure he's very happy about, even more so now if he has to distance himself. That announcement coincided with the huge announcement of Netflix acquiring the rights to WWE Raw. That's the Monday night program. It's going to be a live show on Netflix, which I don't think many of those exist, if any. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work. But they've reportedly paid $5 billion for that deal. I think that's a 10-year deal. So, I mean, that's a lot of money and a big commitment. And then days later, this just comes around and torpedoes all the joy that everybody must have been feeling. Even as I record this, right now, this is like the kickoff to WrestleMania. The live event this weekend, Saturday, is the Royal Rumble. This is who determines is going to wrestle one of the big matches at WrestleMania. Slim Jim, the meat sticks, they're a big sponsor. They've been a big sponsor off and on with the wrestling companies. And because of all this, they're like, yeah, we're not going to advertise. We're pulling out. Coincidentally, Vince resigned, and then Slim Jim's like, okay, we're back in. The advertisers pulling out, that's a big deal to these companies. And that's probably going to cause a big domino effect that they're going to feel. A lot of people are going to be afraid to do business with a company with these kind of headlines going on right now, I'm sure. At the same time, I mean, let's take a look at Vince. This is how he reemerged after that initial ousting with this mustache. I mean, come on. If you're going to have a mustache like that, you're up to stuff. Like, why would you have that? That's the mustache of somebody that does these things. Along with the announcement of The Rock and the Netflix deal, the TKO board showed up. They rang the opening bell at the stock exchange. Did notice Vince he doesn't have the mustache anymore, so I don't know if that's that's probably prepping for a trial, because that mustache is not that's not going to help you in court with those kind of allegations. I think that if I saw that kind of mustache and those allegations, I'd be like, yeah, they probably did that. This whole thing is nuts. I really keep hoping this is just a very elaborate wrestling storyline. Maybe we'll get lucky and none of this happened, and somebody's going to give birth to a rubber hand covered in goo, and then we can all clap our hands and go home happy. But probably not.